Welcome to the bullpen. This is where I share everything I've learned, selling, sales teams, you name it, how to sell product. We cover it on the bullpen. And today we're going to be talking about one of the most often misunderstood facets or pieces of the sales process, which is emotional selling. Because there's a huge mistake almost every salesperson, especially when they're first starting out, makes when it comes to emotions and emotional selling in the whole sales and closing process. So today I'm going to be breaking down exactly what that is and what you can do instead to make sure you're tapping into those emotions the right way to end up closing the sale you need to close and not losing out on those qualified clients, those qualified prospects that you should have had, and then they end up going to somebody else. Nobody wants that. So let's break down emotional selling and what it actually means to start off. So emotional selling is all about tapping in to the inner core of the person, the inner core. And there's really three triggers when it comes to the emotions that we can use and tap into in sales, right? So the first thing, triggers. The first trigger would be fear, right? The fear of missing out on somebody, the fear of failure, the fear of a consequence. That's pretty scary. Then we have desire. So what does somebody long for? What is the result they dream of? What makes them salivate? And then we have trust. So do I trust this person? Do I feel slimy when I'm thinking about a solution, or do I feel slimy when I'm thinking of that salesperson, or do I trust the process? Right? These are the three triggers when it comes to emotions when we're selling. So let me give you an example, a recent example. So we just had Christmas, right? And Christmas is a very emotional time. Because, if you have kids, they're all pumped up and excited for Christmas. You have a partner, wife, husband, they're probably all pumped up too for Christmas. It's very emotionally charged. And so I had to purchase presents for my son, but also my fiance. And when I think about the sales process and all the emotions that tapped in, there were definitely emotions that played a role in terms of the gifts I purchased. So fear. What is the number one fear every parent has when they're shopping for Christmas presents for their kids? Well, the kids hate it, right? Because everybody wants, their kids to be screaming and they're like, oh yeah, this is awesome on Christmas Day. It makes you feel good. Your kid feels good. That's what it's all about. Like when you're a kid, everybody wants to be excited for the presents they get on Christmas. But there's that fear of, oh crap, did I get the right present? Or, oh, I think this is going to hit. I'm not really sure. You don't want to make a mistake because, nobody wants to have their kid being like, oh, why did you get this, right? Or why did Santa Claus bring this? Now, flipping over to the desire side, I kind of touched on it a little bit, but everybody desires to have, to be, to know, even if Santa Claus brings a present, hey, I nailed this thing, right? Oh, I crushed it this year. My kids are so excited. But also, for your partner, when you get a present for your partner, whoever it is, you want to make sure that, they get it and you see their eye, the sparkle in their eyes, the smile they get, the oh wow moment. That's when you really nail it. So that's the desire I was longing for. I wanted to have that end result, but I also feared, getting the wrong thing and having all of the consequences and the pain and the sadness and the loss of status, if I didn't nail that present, right? And I use that example because it's very recent, but this applies to almost every sale you will ever make. And then you have the trust. So do I trust the company who I'm purchasing from? Do I trust the salesperson? Do I trust the opportunity? That's straight Jordan Belfort with the 3 10s, right? Does the person trust you? Do they trust the opportunity? And do they trust the company? And it 100% applies when it comes to trust, okay? Because the whole thing with sales that I've learned over the years is you're basically just getting somebody across to the other side of the river. That's all sales is, right? Because and if you've watched some videos, you've seen me talk about this before, right? So you've got your prospect on this side of the river, and here's the river. They're sad because this is where they're at today. And today you have fear, you have pain, you have challenge. All of these things happen today, right? And tomorrow, where they want to be, it's happy, right? You have success, you have happiness, you have results, you have whatever they're looking for. You've got two opposite sides of the river. You've got the green grass over here, you've got the barren wasteland over here. And today is where the prospects live. That is where the emotion is the strongest because it's true right now. Now, I mentioned there's a huge mistake that new sales reps make when it comes to tapping into emotions in the sales process. And they don't even talk about emotions in the sales process. That's what's going on. So let me give you an example. So in the sales process, we have discovery. If you're not sure what discovery is, I've got a ton of other videos on the discovery phase of the call. But you're going to ask a whole bunch of questions of your prospects so you actually have a good idea on what they're looking for. What would be the best solution? Can you even help them? But a key part of that is finding the challenge. What's not going right now in their life specific to your area of expertise? What's the challenge? What's the number one thing that's broken? Now, most new sales reps, they'll ask the question, hey, just kind of curious, what's not working right now with whatever you're selling or whatever your space is? And the prospect will tell you whatever their answer is. And then they're like, oh, great, check mark box in my head, time to move on. That is not how you tap into emotions with selling. Because here's the thing. We were just watching Shrek the other night. So it's kind of like ogres. And you have layers to an onion, right? Ogres are like onions. Onions are like ogres, especially with the Shrek movie. Same thing applies to challenges in business and tapping in to the emotions involved. And it doesn't even have to be, it can be a B2C sale as well. So you've got layer number 1, 2, 3. This is my extrapolated onion. So let's say you are selling some type of CRM tool. Let's say you're selling software and you're selling a CRM. So your question would be, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, what would you say is the number one challenge you're facing right now with your CRM? Like, why are we on this call? Oh, well, and then the prospect may give you an answer, something like, oh, well, it's just, we're not integrated. Our current CRM, it doesn't play nice with all of our other stuff. So we're looking for a solution to bring everything under the same roof. Great. Most new salespeople, most amateur salespeople are like, great, this person is just looking for integration and connectivity between all of the different things. I just have to hit that, and then I've got this sale. That's what the amateur is thinking in their head. Now, this is the furthest thing from the truth, because what do we have there? There's no emotion, there's no fear, there's no desire, there's nothing there to work on. If we're looking at figuring out today and tomorrow, we've got nothing to work with. And what really drives the majority of human decisions is emotion. We are emotional creatures. Whether you like it or not, everything comes down to emotion. So what do we do in that discovery process? Well, we find out, first of all, what the main challenge is. Now, we have to remain skeptical, because the thing I've learned is the problem that the prospects thinks they have is very rarely the true problem they have. Maybe that's something that some people won't agree with, but it's true. Most of the time when I get on a call with one of our prospects for whatever offer we have, we have a consulting offer for conferences and events. Like, we help scale conferences and turn them into $1 million events. When I'm on a call, oftentimes the prospect will think, or they will tell me, oh yeah, we have an issue with marketing. We have an issue with this. We have an issue with this. This is broken. But as I dig deeper and deeper and deeper, the problem is almost always something else that the prospect just isn't aware of. Because the sales process and the discovery process, it's very much, we're taking if the prospect knew how to fix a problem, they would have fixed it anyway. So we can't necessarily trust the prospect's, their prospect's vision or awareness of the issue, because they haven't been able to solve it on their own, which is why they're talking to you. So we have to take what they say with a grain of salt and do our own investigation, our own discovery, so we can paint a full picture of what's really going on. We want to know exactly what's going on today on this side of the river, so then we can accurately assess and provide a solution, which is getting them over to tomorrow. All right. So if a prospect tells me, oh, connectivity issues, whatever. Oh, okay, cool. Okay, well, tell me more about that. And the prospect's going to continue to talk. What I'm really looking for in this process is I'm looking for the fear and the desire of the prospect, right? It's not good enough just to have the prospect tell me that their CRM isn't connected to, all of their different applications. That's not good enough. What is the fear? Well, tell me, hey, what is the impact? So I'm going to ask about impact questions. So what's going on right now? Are you guys losing business because of your current CRM not working right? Oh yeah, we are. Okay. Perfect. Well, walk me through that. How many deals do you think you're losing a month because of this issue? Oh, well, this. Okay, now you're going to quantify it. So you're taking, I'm losing 5 deals. Great. Well, what is the average customer worth to you? $100,000. So you've basically lost $500,000 in opportunity because your CRM isn't working. Okay? That's not emotional yet. I've quantified it. Now, this is where you can dig in on the third layer, right? So you've quantified it. So we're looking for some type of number, right? The cost. Now, because we have that cost, now we can go in and start digging deeper on the true impact of that cost. So, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, if your business is really losing $500,000 a month, what does that do to the business? What's that doing to your business right now? Oh, well, I'm not sure. It's doing this and this. Okay, well, if you had an extra $500,000 in revenue every month, what would you want to do with that money? What could you do with that money? So now we're getting into fear and desire, and you want to chip and chip and chip and chip away at that. Because what's going to happen is you can take that prospect from impersonal over here and make it very personal. How do we do that? Well, we start asking about the impact on their family, right? So if the business is doing okay, and they are, but they're losing about $500,000 in potential revenue because of their system isn't set up, well, okay, well, if you had $500,000 of revenue, how would that, if you had an additional $500,000 in revenue every month, how would that impact your lifestyle? Oh, well, I'd probably take, 20% of that and add it to this. Okay, well, what would your wife want to do with that money? Oh, well, she'd probably want to go on a couple extra trips, maybe a trip every quarter, something like that. Well, okay, well, do you think she'd be happy going on more trips like that? Oh, for sure. Well, how many trips do you go on right now? Oh, one a year. Oh, but if we solve this, you'd have an extra, X amount per year at your disposal. And do you think your marriage would be better if you guys got to relax and see how you can go from very impersonal up here? Oh, I have a CRM issue. But by the time you peel that onion and remove all those layers, now we're talking about something very personal. Right? So we're looking to focus on the fear, what's not working right, the lost opportunity, the cost, all of that. We're also looking at the desire. And it might not be a personal desire. It may be an emotional desire to be the number one in the industry, to have the recognition of their peers. Maybe they're driven by a sense of not being good enough. So they have to achieve this goal because they think that's going to make them feel better about themselves. Whatever it is. But we have to get to that emotional place, and we can't get there until we peel back the layers and ask follow-up question, follow-up question, follow-up question. But amateurs, they'll just start the conversation. They'll ask a question. They'll be, oh, great, I asked this one, check, and then they move on. But the answer of, oh, I'm just looking for connectivity in this example, that doesn't answer anything. You need to get to the good stuff in here to really figure out what's going on. Because, like I said, the problem the business thinks they have is not necessarily the problem that they actually have, because they've got blinders on. When you're in the middle of a storm, you can't really see very much because you got hail, you got wind, you've got all this type of stuff. You have to have somebody from the outside come in, and that's your role as a salesperson, to do discovery, to tap into the fears, the desires. Because once you can paint the picture of today, you as a salesperson can fully articulate the fears they have, the pains they have, the challenges they're experiencing, and the cost, the impact of not solving those issues. Once you can close your eyes and paint that picture and see completely what's going on, now you can build a bridge. This bridge is your product, because your product or your service is going to help take that prospect and walk them from this side today, the pain, the fear, the challenge, the unhappiness. They can walk across the bridge using your product, and they're in the land of tomorrow, which is where you have the happiness, the success, the achievement, the results. That's what they're looking for. Now, you as the salesperson, as long as you have that trust, because remember, trust was one of those triggers. If the prospect trusts you, if they trust the company, if they trust the opportunity, if you've built that trust, you just have to hold their hand, and you're going to walk them over the bridge using your product or service and get them to tomorrow. That's sales in a nutshell. And one of the main ways you can build instant trust with your prospect is by asking really good questions, right? Because think of it this way. You walk into the doctor's office with, let's say you have a headache, and then the doctor starts asking you about your knee or something unrelated. You're going to be like, oh, this guy doesn't know anything. I don't trust him. And when the doctor gives you a recommendation, oh, I don't trust this. This guy doesn't seem like he knows what's going on. He's asking me all these crazy questions. Same thing happens in sales. But if you and your staff, your sales reps, can ask very, very targeted questions that the prospect is thinking to themselves, oh, like, this guy knows his stuff. That's a really good question. Oh, this guy's a true expert. You don't necessarily have to be the prospect could know more than you about the product. It happens all the time. Even with our team, we're selling services to founders and people running these huge events. The sales rep, they know, but they don't know as much as that founder. But you position yourself, you earn that trust, you build that authority with the prospect by asking really good questions. So it's not, the sales process is not really having to know more about than your prospect. It's just asking better questions and provoking that thought and getting better quality answers from the prospect. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So at the end of the day, emotional selling is just not being satisfied with surface level questions, and because everything ends up with some emotional trigger. Even if you're selling corporate, right? That prospect is going to have an emotional pull about the prospects of promotion. What happens, the stress, what happens if the project fails? What is the impact on their career? And how does that career impact, that challenge, how does that set back their family life? How does that impact their relationship with their spouse? How does that impact their relationship with their kids? How does that impact their long-term retirement and the dream they have of sipping pina coladas on the beach with their wife? right? But if they fail, if they get canned because of this thing screws up, well, that puts that in jeopardy. This is where we have to get to in our sales calls, because that's what's actually going to drive somebody to take action. Something with no emotion, if it's just, oh, well, I need better connectivity. Well, here are the 20 ways we connect with all these other apps. It doesn't move anything. But if we tie our sales process to emotion, number one, we're actually doing the prospect a favor by uncovering and asking these thought-provoking questions, because the prospect probably hasn't even gone there or they're avoiding it. But now we have given the prospect clarity. And if we do our job in the sales process and we promote that clarity, that's going to actually do the prospect a favor and make their decision easier, because now they're laser focused on exactly what the problem is and the solutions and the possible implications of the solutions and not solving the solution. And now they can make an educated decision. That's good sales. That's sales in a nutshell. That's how we take a prospect from today and bring them over to tomorrow. All right. So on your next sales call, whatever you're selling, whether it's B2B, B2C, a hybrid approach to both, whatever it is, dig deeper. Don't just satisfy yourself like the amateurs do, just taking the first answer as verbatim. Dig deeper, get into the good stuff, the fear, the desire, and actually have a real conversation that helps your prospect and also moves along the sales process. All right.